focused on some of the more advanced features you'll find in Xtuple ERP, namely some of the things that you won't find in Postbooks. Really, the purpose of this is what are some of the things, some of those advanced features that aren't in the Postbooks product. So I'm going to do just a very quick kind of overview, framing the different products that Xtuple has, and then we'll dive right into actually showing those products. My name is Wally Tondra. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at Xtuple in Norfolk, Virginia. So thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions as you're going through, you should have on your console, on your GoToWebinar console, you should have a question section. If you put your questions in there, we will kind of pile them up till the very end, and I'll be happy to, once I'm done with the presentation, be happy to stick around and answer any questions that you might have. So we'll get going now. So Xtuple Manufacturing is one of the different, what we call editions. So Xtuple's got different editions. The Postbooks product is our entry-level product. It is the free and open source version, which you can download from many places on the internet. And then we have different versions that kind of focus on more vertical specialties and add some advanced functionality to address those functionalities. We're not going to talk about distribution today. In 2 weeks, Tom Atkins is going to do a presentation specifically talking about the distribution advanced features. I'm today focusing on the manufacturing functionality. We do have an enterprise edition too. If you're an organization that has both distribution and manufacturing, you might take a look at our enterprise edition. It also has some additional things that we sell in our app store that come all in the enterprise edition. But today, functionally, we'll be talking and focusing on the manufacturing edition. So broadly, Xtuple ERP can handle all kinds of manufacturing environments, irrespective of the edition that you're on. It's very well suited to handle a make-to-order kind of environment, very well suited to handle a make-to-stock kind of environment, and very well suited to handle a mixed-mode environment. Again, I'm talking about manufacturing, and I'm talking about all of the products that we just saw just a minute ago. What I'm focusing on today are those things in the manufacturing edition which are the more advanced functionality. So if you are a larger manufacturer or a manufacturer who's large or small, just trying to get a handle on all of your inventory, your raw material inventory, your finished goods inventory, trying to get that timing down of when should I be ordering product in order to meet demand, when should I be ordering product in order to have the right balance of inventory on hand so that my customer service levels are there. So the key features that you'll find in the manufacturing edition are material planning, inventory planning modules of MRP. We call it MRP, but it handles MRP and DRP capabilities. Master production scheduling, which brings a forecast into that planning picture. Bill of operations or routings. The breeder bill of material, which we'll go into, it's kind of geared for light process manufacturing oriented companies. Capacity planning, so if you're a manufacturer trying to get a kind of a handle on your different work centers, what's my load, what kind of scenario does it look like for my machines, what is my capacity relative to what I have for orders. We've got some tools to help with that. And finally, we've got a number of tools that are more geared towards a lean or constraint management oriented environment. We won't spend a lot of time on those today, but they are some helpful tools that provide a visual indication of when you should be thinking about ordering more product, when you should be thinking about making some changes to your current workload across the different work centers, those kinds of things. So there are some tools for that as well, but we'll focus on a number of these today. So you can actually find those differences. I don't know if you've spent any time on the Xtuple website and you navigate to the solutions area, and you can look at a comparison of the different versions of the software. We have them in this nice columnar view where you can see the different versions of what's in each. And so again, I'm going to be focused on the manufacturing edition, but you can see there's a lot of overlap between the different versions. All the products, the Xtuple products have accounting. All the Xtuple products have CRM. It's really when you get into some of that more advanced functionality that you see some of the things that, in this case, the manufacturing edition brings. So here it's highlighted in this table, the things that the manufacturing specific does. So again, you'll see that on the website. If you navigate to under solutions and look at comparisons, you can see the different versions. So we're going to talk to all these features today. So the big difference in the manufacturing edition is that it's a multi-level MRP, a multi-level manufacturing material planning system. So we're going to dive into that and show you where that's relevant. Again, the master production scheduling is a very similar planning engine, but it allows you to add in a forecast. So if you've got an idea for how much you think you're going to be making over a scheduled period of time, over a quarter, a number of quarters, and you want to provide some additional visibility, perhaps you've got a long lead time key component or several key components that are long lead time items. If you have a forecast in there, it can give you some of that more early visibility to, well, I anticipate that I'm going to need product in order to meet my demand, so perhaps I should be ordering some of my long lead time items. Doesn't mean that you need to start making a product months in advance, but if your lead time is perhaps 2 months, maybe you should think about ordering those parts in anticipation of making those products. And then routings. Routings is a really key component to manufacturing, right? It's the steps in the manufacturing process. What do I need to do in order to make this product? In a metal manufacturing scenario, perhaps I'm cutting, and then I'm finishing, and then I'm welding, and then maybe I have to send a product out for to be treated, and then it comes back in and a final assembly happens. So all of those steps can be indicated. They can have work centers associated with them. They can have labor cost associated with them. They can have overhead cost associated with them. So that's the idea of the routing, is to provide the labor portion of the manufacturing cost as opposed to just the material or the bill of material component to it. So a breeder bill of material is a scenario in manufacturing where you might have multiple outputs. A traditional manufacturing scenario says, I've got raw material, I have a manufacturing process, and at the end, I've got this finished product. Well, in a breeder bill of material or many process-oriented manufacturing scenarios, you've got multiple outputs. So when I finish this manufacturing process, and there's an example on the website in the videos of a sugar manufacturing process where I can have different kinds of sugar, fine-grained sugar, brown sugar, syrup out of it. So I can have different kinds of byproduct, different kinds of co-product out of the manufacturing process. The capacity planning in Xtuple's Manufacturing Edition will give you a view of what is my capacity, what is the current load that I've got in terms of my current work order. So as you release product, as you release work orders, you start to build up a load over time. You start to load up your work centers, and we provide a window so that you can see what does that load look like over a period of time. So we'll look at that so you can see that. And then the lean and constraint management tools that are available, we'll take a kind of a quick look at as well. But it's meant to provide, it's really based on the theory of constraints, more specifically the idea of the drum buffer rope concept and having buffers in place so that if there are areas of constraint in your operation, you can plan for them or plan around them so that you can keep your work flowing through your operation kind of more smoothly, even though you know you're going to get to some places where there could be a bottleneck. If we have buffers in place, then we can smooth through those potential bottlenecks. Okay, so let's take a look at the product. So now we're looking at the Xtuple ERP product. I'm not going to spend any time navigating or demonstrating the navigation of the application. There's actually lots of videos out there on Xtuple University, xtupleuniversity.com or xtupleu.com, where you can find lots of videos on navigation, on look and feel of the application, different parts of the application, but I'm not going to spend any time on that. I'm going to dive right into what we're talking about here. So the first one we're going to talk about is that multi-level planning scenario. So if we go into a bill of material here, so I'm going to bring up an indented bill of material view of a product. So we'll take a look at this product. And before we take a broad look at it, so first let's look at it from a single level bill of material scenario. Okay, so first we look at it as this toy truck, and if you spend any time in our demo database, you've seen that we've got lots of trucks and cars, toy trucks and cars in our demo databases. And that's what we're looking at here. I've created a variation of that. So in order to make this toy truck, it's a yellow tough truck here, there's a number of raw materials that go into it. So there's paint that needs to go into it. There's a box, so it's got a specific box that it's got. It's got a body, it's got wheels, and there's a sub-assembly. And we can open up the sub-assembly and see what's in that. So if we look in the sub-assembly, we see that there is another box that's associated with this product and an insert, so that there is when you put this packaging assembly together that the box goes in, or that the truck itself goes in, it's got an insert and it's got a box. And then there's an accessories kit that goes along with this as well. So that's underneath the packaging assembly, that goes with that. And underneath the accessories kit, there is another box, and inside the box is a decal. So you can see the multi-level bill of material scenario that we've got here. So the idea is, with a multi-level material planning, is that the system will, when we have demand for it, it will look at, do I have the products that I need to make this, or the raw materials that I need to make this finished good? So it will check for paint and the box and the wheels. And then it will see, do I have enough for this sub-assembly? And if I don't, it will say, okay, well, let's make some. And then it will check, do we have the material needed to make it? And so it will look to see, do I have the box and the insert here? And do I have this accessories kit? And because that is also a manufactured product, it will go down another level and say, well, do I have everything that I need to make this? So we've really got 3 levels here that we're eyeing and that we're trying to understand in terms of a supply and demand scenario. So what I did a little earlier was I took a sales order for the item. So we'll do that again real quick. We'll create demand for that item. So I'm going to enter the customer in real quickly, and I'm going to enter in the item. We'll do it, I could enter it in kind of quickly down the bottom, but I'm going to enter it in this way so we can get a little bit more of a profile of that item as we're taking the order. So I'll start typing the item in as well, and I'll select the item. Now, as soon as I've selected the item, you can see down the bottom some things have now appeared because the system knows what we're dealing with. We're dealing with this truck, so why don't we give a view of the inventory availability so I can see how much I have on hand of this item. And over to the right, I can see the inventory availability of the raw materials. This is everything that goes into making this product. So let's say the customer's looking for 100 of these. So as I enter a quantity of 100, we get a different picture here, right? Suddenly lots of things have lit up that are red. What's red is the fact that we don't have enough to meet immediately anyway the demand for this product. So we've got the box. We appear to be out of the box. We've got that sub-assembly that we saw that had several things in it. We don't seem to have any of that. So we can see that we need that. We don't have this other box, the 33 box, and we don't have any of the accessory kits. Well, do we have what it takes to make those? In fact, we do. So now we know that we're taking an order that is going to cause demand, a demand signal to go throughout the system, and the system's going to have to react to it because we can't just satisfy it with on-hand inventory, right? So that's what MRP is for. MRP is for helping us to address those supply and demand imbalances. Now, this product I had set up, this yellow truck 33 here, I had it set up to be a make-to-order item. So it automatically created the top-level order for this item. So today, immediately, as soon as I hit save here, it's going to create an order for a work order for this yellow truck. So I'll save that and get out of here. So if we go over to manufacturing and we take a look at what's in manufacturing, we can see, we'll look at this way, we can see our order for that item that we just took, right? The sales order was 50395, and now I've got a work order for that. But we know that we don't have everything that we need, right, for that particular order. So I'm going to run MRP, and I'm going to let MRP give us some suggestions on what we should do here. So up on the upper left-hand corner, this is a newer feature in the software, actually. You can, in 4.9 and above, you've got the ability to create your own shortcuts here. So I'm going to run MRP, and you can run MRP for a single item. You can run MRP for a group of items, or I can run MRP across the whole company. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say all planner codes, which is groups of items. I can run it for one location or all locations. And I'll just say I'm going to look out 2 weeks. So I can say plus 14, or I could pop the calendar and say, 14 days from today, either way. So I'll say OK. MRP will run. And now I also have up here, I want to see the results. So now I'm looking at the results really from just that one sales order, what has happened. So MRP first suggested that we needed that box. That was something that was needed. It said that we needed that sub-assembly, which is the first sub-assembly that was required. And the box was a component that was in there. We saw that T-sub 33, that packaging sub-assembly, that had the accessories kit, and it had this box in it. So you can see it went down all the different layers, right? If we go back to that bill of material, we can see the different layers here and the different results of what MRP is suggesting. They're direct results of not having the accessory, the T-box here. That's a part that's made. So MRP went several layers down, levels down. As many levels as you have, MRP will do that. And that is a key piece of functionality that you'll find in the manufacturing edition. So another key component that we were going to look at is master production scheduling. So master production scheduling, similar to MRP, it allows you to look at a plan, it allows you to look at demand and make suggestions for what you should be doing in order to meet that demand, but it also allows you to add in a forecast here. And let's take a look at what a forecast looks like. So I've got a forecast here that I created over time. So what it allows you to do is create or make an estimation or a forecast, if you will, of what you anticipate selling into the future. So you can give the dates, you can give the specific product, and you can give the quantities. And now the system is looking at MRP, rather, when you run it, or MPS. When you run it, it's looking at not only what do I have on hand and what inventory am I low on, but it's also taking into account the forecast. So it's going to make recommendations based on a forecast. This can come in really handy if you're in a seasonal business, right? And if you had to build everything, the classic example that we always talk about here is snow shovels. So if you're building snow shovels only in December, you might not be able to meet all of the demand. However, if you're forecasting your anticipated demand and you're building up during the summer and fall months, then you've got an ability to build to that forecast so that when you get to the November, December, January months and you're selling more than you have the ability to make in any one month, you're covered because you were able to make some ahead of time. So that's the idea with a forecast, and with MPS, we provide that capability. So let's take a look at what a routing is. We sometimes call it around here a bill of materials. So if we look at a list of items. We'll bring up a manufactured item. So we've looked at a bill of material already. Let's look at a routing. So here's that item that we were just looking at, or a similar item to what we were just looking at. Now let's bring up a routing. So a routing is that, as I said earlier, it's the steps in the manufacturing process. So in this case, to put together a truck, we've got 3 different steps. We've got a paint operation. Then we actually assemble the truck itself. And then there's a packaging operation where we put the truck in that packaging assembly and bring it over to shipping. So within these operations, there's even more detail here, right? So we can give an operation a name, and we can define where the work happens. So in this case, the work center is called Paint 1. And what that allows us to do is define a rate, potentially a labor rate or a rate for that work center, so we can accumulate cost as we're going along, labor costs as we're going along. So you can define what we anticipate that the labor requirement will be for this step in this operation. So we've got the name, we've got the work center, and we anticipate that it's going to take 6 minutes of setup time, and we anticipate that for every 100 that we make, we're going to have a run time or a total operational time of 120 minutes. Now we've got the ability to clock against that, so we've got the ability to say we're going to clock in and clock out and report actual time against a work order, and we'll take a look at that. But this is the setup of it. So you define what the steps are, you define what the anticipated times are, you can define what materials get consumed at this step in the operation. You can define instructions, so you can have written instructions here that can print out on what you call a traveler or a work ticket, so that people who are doing the assembly or the manufacturing process can see it. We can even have images, so if there's kind of a little instructive picture or image that might go along with it, or even a reduced drawing or something like that that you want to have to go along with this particular step in the operation, you can provide that at each step in the operation. So let's take a look at what one might look like if we had, if we were going to report against that. So we've got, if we go over to manufacturing here and we bring up the manufacturing schedule, so here's the work order that we just created here. So if we want to now report against it, we can see the materials that we've got there, and then we can see the operations that we have here. So in this case, I haven't associated necessarily or defined which materials get consumed at which operation. At this product, I didn't. But if I look at another product, you can see that you do have the ability to do that. I can define these materials get consumed at the paint operation, and this material gets consumed at the assembly operation, and that sub-assembly gets consumed at the packaging operation. So just different ways that you can configure how an operations, or how the bill of operations, how the routing can all work together. So now when you get to a stage where you want to report against it, if I release this work order here, and I'll release this one as well. So now I might be somebody on the shop floor, right? I might be a worker on the shop floor who's just, all we're concerned with that individual doing is doing the actual work on the shop floor and just reporting back to the system when they start, when they stop, when they've finished. So we've got a user interface that we call the production time clock that allows users on the shop floor to be able to clock in and clock out. So this goes hand in hand with a routing, if you have a routing. And this is a key component to the manufacturing operation. Often when we're trying to help people to make that choice between what's the right version of the software for them, we'll often ask, are you interested in trying to capture labor on the shop floor, capture real time, the amount of time that people are spending? And if people say, yes, that's really why we're looking here, then I say you need the production time clock, you need routings, you need the manufacturing edition. So I could scan my employee badge here. The system is barcode enabled, so if I've got a barcoded employee badge, I could scan that. I could scan the work order that's outstanding there. So here's the work order for the item that I just had. I can choose an operation that I'm going to work on, so I could scan that perhaps as well, and then clock in. And then the system is keeping track of my time. So I go back and I do the painting. I go into the paint shop. I paint all of those trucks, and when I'm done, I can just come back. Maybe I've got an iPad, or I've got a computer right there. I've got a kiosk that I can come back to perhaps. I can scan myself again. The system knows what operation I was working on or what jobs I might have open for myself right now, and I could just highlight the one that I'm working on and clock out. Now I've got the opportunity to report specific quantities, not just my time, because the system did that, but also how many did I complete, how many did I finish. I was supposed to do 100. Did I actually complete 100? And the system allows me to override my setup time if I want to do that. And it kept track of my run time. See, the 0.49 minutes here is the amount of time that I was talking while I clocked in and clocked out. And there were materials that could be consumed or associated with this particular operation. But all I'm doing now is just clocking my time against that job. So that's kind of the key to routings. It's defining the steps in the process, defining where that work happens, defining a rate at which that happens, and also defining, being able to report specifically at the point of use, or the point that the operation is happening, the ability to clock in and clock out and capture that real time. This might be a good opportunity as well to talk about the view of capacity that we provide. So we've got people out there, we've got work centers out there, we've got work orders that are scheduled in the different work centers. So if I'm a production planner, one of the things I might have an interest in is understanding the load that's out there, understanding how jobs are scheduled. What does it look like out there? Sometimes it's just enough to make sure that you've got the material, but kind of that next level is, okay, now I want to make sure that I'm optimized. I want to make sure that I'm not too overloaded. Would it make sense for me to allow for some overtime? If we have a few people, a small team, work overtime tonight, then we can clear out the rest of the work week, and we can meet all of the rest of the demands. So we've got this view up here. If you go up under scheduling to capacity planning, we've got a few reports here, a few screens that will really help with understanding what's going on from a capacity perspective. So a time-phased capacity is how much do we have out there? So what machines do we have out there, and what is the overall capacity of our shop? And then the time-phased load is over a period of time. It's similar view, but it's saying what are the jobs that we've got scheduled out there right now. And then finally, the most valuable one, in my opinion, is the time-phased available capacity, which looks at our capacity, and looks at the jobs and nets it out. So it tells you, how am I overloaded? Am I overscheduled? Where am I with all of that? So let's take a look at what that looks like. So first thing that I want to do is decide how I like to view my capacity. Do I want to view it by days? Do I want to view it by weeks? If you're doing kind of larger planning, you might look at it over quarters, but you can define those calendars. That's the important thing here, is that the calendar view that you're going to look at here is user-defined. So I've got a few user-defined calendars that I've got out here. So I'm going to look at, let's look at weeks relative to now, forward out 8 weeks. So here are the weeks that we've defined, and we'll say OK, and we'll look out that way. So now what we're seeing here is a list of the different work centers that I've got. We've got the weeks that are here, and we've got scheduling that's here. So I can see all of the, basically the availability of the time that we've got here for to look at now. So did I go? I went back 8 weeks. Okay, I wanted to go forward 8 weeks. That might be a little bit more sensible here. So now what we're looking at, now we can see that there's some difference in numbers, right? When we look at this week versus this week versus this week. So what you see here is that the effect on capacity that scheduled jobs have. So this week I apparently don't have anything scheduled for assembly. Next week I do have some jobs scheduled, and then the following week I don't. So as you can see the differences here, that's where you see the differences in capacity. And if you've got a particular work center in a particular time frame that's overscheduled, this is where you've got kind of a visual cue to that. And so if your capacities, the ones that have zeros here don't have any capacities loaded, but all the ones with numbers do have capacities loaded. And if those were red or if those were negative numbers, you would know that you've got a situation that you might need to address. So I could hover over any particular cell here. I could right-click and I can say, well, show me the load here. What's scheduled? So I can look at the different jobs that are scheduled here, and if I need to, I can make an edit to the operation. I can make some changes. I can reschedule it. So I've got the ability to make changes to my schedule based on that. So I can take a look at my capacity. I can drill into it, and I can then make changes to the extent that I want to do that. So I could look at it, I'm looking at it from a week perspective. I could also look at it at a day perspective, so I could see the load that way, and I could see what the impact is on the different days, and again, drill into any particular load or anything going on. Great. So that's capacity. And the other point that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is this notion of a breeder bill of materials. So the breeder bill of materials says I have more than one potential output here. You still have raw materials, right? So you still have a bill of material for the manufacturing process, but the breeder bill of materials says what are the potential products on the outside, once I've finished this production run. So I'm going to go under production, under products here. If I look at breeder bill of material, I'm going to look at a list, and I've got just a couple of them here. So one is a hubcap and fender here. So the idea here is that I've got sheet metal to stamping operation, if you will, right? So I've got sheet metal, and these are the potential products that can come out of a single manufacturing run once I stamp it out. I've got fender, and I've got hubcaps, and I've got scrap. So those are the products. So these are the byproducts, and or the co-products, sorry, the fender and the hub, and the scrap is a byproduct because we can still make use of it. It has some value, so we want to assign that value even if we're putting it into the category of scrap. Eventually, we've got enough scrap that we can sell or that we can trade, so that we can provide it. So you can decide if you want to assign a cost to that or not. We're not, in this case, we're saying that all of the cost is going to be, when we stamp one sheet, we typically can get 2 fenders and 4 hubcaps out of it, so that we're saying that 20% or 40% of the cost is going to the fenders and 60% of the cost is going to the hubcaps. So that's how you do it. You could add more products here if we wanted to change up the cost picture, the cost scenario. We can do that as well. So you've got the ability to do that. So it's similar scenario in terms of a manufacturing process. It's just that when you finish a manufacturing process, you get to report then what are we receiving into inventory. Maybe when we ran this particular production run, we didn't quite get 2 out of every sheet. We got 1 out of most, and we got 2 out of some, 2 fenders. And we never got 4 hubcaps. We typically got 3 hubcaps for every sheet that we did. So you've got the ability to report that in so you can get more specific on what you got out of that particular run. And then the final things that from that list is this idea of lean or constraint management. So if I go up under scheduling, I've got different views here. We would do something that we call update the status so that we can plan, we can tell the system that we want to get a view of that. But then we've got a view of inventory, and we can look at work orders as well, and we can even look at capacity here. So if I were to look at work orders by planner code here, well, I need to run it first, actually. So we'll update that, and we'll run it for everything. And then we will look at Constraint Management by planner code. So if we look at what this provides for us is a picture of what should our priorities be. I'm also looking at the work orders here. So I'm looking at the work orders. I could bring up a kind of a traditional schedule of here's all the work orders. But when I'm looking at it here, what it does is put it in the priority of, am I potentially in danger of not meeting this this due date because I'm already into, I've started to go into the lead time. I've got a 4-day lead time and it's due in 2 days. You know, I'm already behind the 8 ball, right? I'm already potentially behind my schedule. So that's what the system tries to do here. It tries to look at any particular work orders that we go out there, and we see how critical are we in terms of consuming that lead time. If you think of the lead time as the buffer in this scenario, the system will give us an idea. So with this order, it's not a problem. With this order, it's not a problem. With this one, we're 100% consumed, so we have completely consumed our buffer. So I would assume that that one's due today. And the scenario is that we just took this order for today, and we said that it was due today. Well, that has a multi-day lead time, so we're already behind the 8 ball. If it's a make-to-order item, takes 2 days to make it, we're already late, right? And if there's a sub-assembly that's required to make it, which is that accessory kit, well, that's way behind, right? Because the system will backward schedule all the way through the different layers or levels in your bill of materials. So if it takes 2 or 4 days to make the top level item, well, that's 4 days from when it's due, or 4 days before it's due. That's when the sub-assemblies are going to have to be due, right? So if those also have lead times, then we're really backed up. And that's the picture here, and that's what this is telling you. It's just a different way to look at things. We could look at the work orders this way, right, as we were, and we could see them by due date. We can see that that one's overdue as well. But this one is also just basically showing you by when they were put in. We can sort it by due date here too. But the idea with lean and constraint is it just gives you a different way to look at things, a visual indicator for what's my risk for potentially being late here. So those are the key things that I wanted to show. If we go back to this screen here. We talked about the multi-level bill of material planning. We talked about the master production scheduling, the forecast. We talked about the bill of operations, the routing, the different steps in the manufacturing process, and how we can report against those as well. Even down on the shop floor, having individuals clock in and clocking out of jobs so that you can capture that real-time labor component, the breeder bill of materials, that light process capability that's there, the view of capacity that we provide so that you can get an idea not just of my material, but also what does the load look like, what might my areas of concern be there, and also the view that the leaner constraint management will give you. It's the same information as looking at the rest of the system, but it just gives you a view of where am I potentially in danger here? What are the things that I need to focus on? So that's really what I wanted to cover today, and I hope that this has been helpful in understanding some of the differences between Postbooks and the Manufacturing Edition. If you have any questions about any of our products, please feel free to send a quick note into sales@xtuple.com. A number of us will get that, and would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you do have any quick questions here, there's a question section on your console, your GoToWebinar console. So if you have any questions, you can type them in there. If you think of them later, please send them into sales@xtuple.com. Doesn't look like we have any pressing questions here, so I'll let everybody go at this point. We'll sign off, and I thank you for joining us today.